Imagine a tiny seed, packed with more protein than beef, thriving in temperatures that turn our staple crops to dust. It laughs at drought, growing verdant where rivers run dry. For 5 millennia, it was the lifeblood of civilizations in Earth's most brutal deserts. Then, in a blink of history, we humans erased it. Not by accident, but by design. We replaced it with weaker crops, demonized its very existence, and forced it into the shadows. But the earth keeps its secrets. Beneath the unforgiving soil, something waited. It didn't die. It merely slept, an ancient guardian biding its time. This is the story of the crop we threw away just before the world needed it most. This is the story of a forbidden power, a silent revolution, and the forces that sought to keep it from us. Welcome to Veiled Earth. If these truths resonate with you, the simplest act can preserve this wisdom. Subscribe, hit the bell, and share these revelations with those who yearn to remember what we forgot. The archive opens not in a sterile lab, but in the sun-baked heart of the Tahahuacan Valley, Mexico. An archaeological site, fact-checked and dated to 500 BCE. Inside ancient storage pits, researchers unearthed seeds, perfectly preserved for 2.5 millennia. But their journey began far earlier. Genetic analysis in 2021 unveiled a shocking truth. This seed was domesticated 5,000 years ago in a single, brilliant event in the Sonoran Desert. The people who cultivated it had no written language, no grand empires as we define them. Yet they possessed a wisdom we have systematically dismantled. In a land where mere survival was a daily struggle, they made a choice that defies modern agricultural logic. They chose this bean before the grain, not for sentiment, but for survival. This is the tepary bean, scientifically Phaseolus acutifolius, but its true name is etched in the resilience of evolution itself. It was engineered by millennia of natural selection for one purpose: to flourish where nothing else could. Its very genome is a fortress. It produces unique amino sugars, a natural shield preventing its proteins from degrading, even when the air scorches at 118 degrees Celsius, 48 degrees Celsius. When the rains fail, its leaves perform an astonishing dance, folding inward during the day to conserve every precious drop, opening only under the cool embrace of night. It's a master alchemist, fixing nitrogen from the very air, breathing life back into dead soil. And its nutritional power? A bombshell. More protein per ounce than beef, up to 25 grams per 100 grams of bean. The Tohono O'odham people called it tepawi, simply the bean. But their oral traditions paint a far grander picture. They whisper that the Milky Way itself is not made of stars, but of countless white tepary beans scattered across the night sky. A testament to its abundance, a cosmic echo of its vital role. By 1,000 years ago, the Hohokam people were cultivating it throughout Arizona, employing methods that make our modern agricultural advancements seem foolish. They planted them in arroyos, dry washes that briefly surged with life during monsoon rains. They built ingeniously simple brush diversion structures to capture and direct these flash floods. The beans germinated with a single rain and matured in a staggering 60 days. 2 monsoon rains, 1 full harvest. In regions where annual rainfall barely kissed 3 inches, the tepary bean still produced. Fast forward to the 1920s. Tohono O'odham farmers were harvesting 1.5 million pounds of tepary beans annually, trading them across the Southwest, a vibrant network linking Arizona, Sonora, and the Great Plains. This bean didn't just sustain communities, it forged them, carrying entire populations through drought, through famine, through impossible heat, and it kept them healthy. Before the invasion of processed foods, the Tohono O'odham had virtually no incidence of type 2 diabetes. Their traditional diet, tepary beans, mesquite pods, cholla buds, naturally maintained healthy cholesterol and balanced blood sugar. The tepary bean was the cornerstone. Its soluble fiber slowed digestion, preventing dangerous sugar spikes. Its low glycemic index was a metabolic marvel. But modern research would later confirm something even more extraordinary, something the pharmaceutical industry might prefer we never knew. Tepary beans contain protease inhibitors that actively inhibit the growth of certain cancer cells. This wasn't just food. This was preventative medicine, growing freely in the sand, a natural shield against the diseases that plague our modern world. So, how did a crop this powerful, this vital, this miraculous, simply vanish? It wasn't nature that killed it. It was ideology. It was control. It was us. The first blow struck in the 1600s. Spanish Franciscan friars, agents of a new world order, established dozens of missions along the Rio Grande. Their objective was chillingly clear: convert the natives, pacify the land, and extract resources. The missions brought wheat, barley, and European cattle. Native farmers were commanded to plant wheat for church tithes. The tepary bean, wild, uncontrollable, demanding no European input, no irrigation systems, no dependence, had no place in this new, rigid system. A Jesuit journal from 1694 dismissively described the crop as too wild to control. That single line screams volumes. A plant that grew without irrigation, without ownership, without dependence was not a gift. It was a profound threat to the colonial order, a defiant symbol of indigenous sovereignty. Fields of tepary beans were replaced, or burned. The irony is a bitter pill to swallow. Those fragile European crops routinely failed during the long droughts, while the tepary could have kept everyone alive. But the bean, like the spirit of the land itself, does not surrender easily. Seeds stayed buried, sleeping through centuries, waiting for their turn to rise. By the 1930s, a new, more insidious erasure began. This time, the weapon was not fire or religion. It was mechanization. It was progress. The 1920s had been a golden age for tepary cultivation, but World War II changed everything. Farmers abandoned their fields, lured by wages on sprawling, mechanized cotton farms, fueled by unsustainable well irrigation. These new agricultural empires ran on machines, mechanical harvesters, massive tractors, and the suffocating uniformity of industrial monoculture. Tepary beans were labor-intensive. Their pods matured at different times, demanding the careful touch of human hands. Wait too long, and the pods would shatter, spilling the precious beans onto the ground. A brilliant survival mechanism for the wild, but a nightmare for the cold, unfeeling machine. In a system built for speed, for uniformity, for profit above all else, the tepary had no place. Government subsidies flowed like rivers to corn, soy, and cotton, crops that fed livestock and industry, not people. By the 1950s, a crop that had sustained 5,000 years of civilization was nearly extinct, vanishing in just 2 decades. A deliberate act of forgetting, driven by economic interests and a narrow vision of what agriculture should be. We had chosen to bury it, but a handful of families refused to let it die. Ramona Button of Ramona Farms stumbled upon a few black tepary beans saved in an old trunk. Seeds that should have been lost to history were kept like sacred heirlooms, tucked away in clay jars, hidden in basements, passed down with whispered instructions. The bean was waiting for the world to need it again. That moment arrived with brutal force in the 1970s. Global droughts lashed the planet. Soybeans withered. Corn struggled to pollinate under relentless heat. Even wheat, the colonial crop that had replaced the tepary, showed its weakness under the 110 degrees 43 sun. Farmers in the American Southwest were desperate, their backs against the wall. Agricultural researchers, searching for solutions, began testing wild plants that still defied the desert. What they found surprised everyone. A humble vine with small white blossoms, growing strong and vibrant at 115 degrees 46 degrees. They tested it in plots near Tucson and Sonora. Even with almost no irrigation, it produced a full, healthy crop. The plant? The tepary bean. Alive and well, after 4 centuries of calculated erasure. Scientists measured nitrogen levels in the soil after harvest. They were higher than before planting. The plant literally healed the dirt it grew in. A USDA researcher named Dr. Howard Scott called it a gift from the past to the future. They compared it to soybeans. The tepary delivered 20 to 25% protein, resisted pests naturally, and needed 1/3 the water. It wasn't a relic. It was a survivor, a blueprint for climate resilience, designed for extremes that are now our new normal. But mere survival doesn't guarantee a comeback in a system driven by profit. The tepary had everything big agriculture claimed to want: high yield, drought resistance, natural soil recovery. But there was one fundamental problem. It refused to belong to anyone. You couldn't patent it. You couldn't modify it genetically to claim ownership. You couldn't sell expensive fertilizers and pesticides alongside it. It didn't need them. And that, in a system built around control and market dominance, made it invisible. Agricultural journals, beholden to powerful interests, labeled it unsuitable for commercial production. Even as research papers lauded its unparalleled climate strength, the message was clear: it wasn't profitable. And profit, tragically, beat survival every single time. It was deliberately sidelined. But a few people refused to accept that verdict. Around 1996, a community group called Tohono O'odham Community Action, TOCA, began a desperate mission. Collecting ancient seedlines from elders, from forgotten storage jars, from the very memory of the land. Each variety had its own name, its own flavor, its own sacred story. Some hadn't been grown for more than 300 years. Farmers like Terrell Dew Johnson and Sterling Johnson worked by hand. No machines, no chemicals, just desert soil and the powerful force of ancestral memory. They called it planting the ancestors. By the early 2000s, they harvested enough to feed their families and sell small bags to local schools. The beans reappeared in traditional stews, tortillas, and bread. Elders said the flavor tasted like the desert itself, like a forgotten song. Kids, raised on bland, store-bought food, learned how to plant, soak, and cook the same beans their great-grandparents had carried through countless dry seasons. Every seed represented survival. Every harvest was an act of defiance against what had been lost. TOCA eventually built a food co-op and partnered with universities to share their data, proving the tepary could grow with 75% less water than modern beans. But this revival went far beyond just food. It restored identity. Farmers spoke of growing it as remembering who we were before the drought, a reconnection to a deeper, more resilient self. As the crops began to spread again across the Southwest, scientists finally started paying attention. Today, climate models warn that over 30% of global crop yields could plummet by 2050 due to rising heat and drought. Yet, the tepary bean has already lived through worse. It was born from heat, from scarcity. In fields where corn and soy wither into dust, the tepary stays green, setting pods even at a scorching 115 degrees 46 to Greekso. Scientists now cautiously, almost reluctantly, call it America's survival crop. In 2019, university trials in Arizona and Mexico confirmed what desert farmers always knew. Tepary beans used less than 1/3 the water of soybeans while producing nearly equal protein. That means they could feed families in regions where rainfall barely touches the soil, where desperation is a constant companion. International Center for Tropical Agriculture in Colombia is now testing crossbreeds of tepary and common beans, desperately trying to impart its incredible drought and heat resistance to global food systems. Governments have even begun testing it for food security programs, finally acknowledging the wisdom that was right under their noses all along. But the real momentum, the true revolution, is coming from indigenous farmers. They see it as more than just a crop. It is a bridge between the past and the planet's uncertain future, a testament to enduring wisdom. As one elder told researchers with a knowing glance, "We grow it because it remembers how to live when everything else forgets." The story of the tepary bean is not about rediscovery. It is about recognition. The knowledge was never truly lost. It was systematically ignored, suppressed, and dismissed by the very systems we created. Systems that prioritized profit over people, control over collaboration. And now, while the world spends billions searching for drought-proof seeds, for solutions to the climate catastrophe, the answer has been patiently waiting in the desert, offering its gifts for 5,000 years. The bean that clothed itself in scarcity, that fed armies of heat, that survived missions, mechanization, and corporate erasure. It never stopped offering its gifts. It simply waited for us to remember. This knowledge is not lost. It is buried in every seed, every pod, every harvest. The crop we called backward, primitive, uncontrollable, may very well be the future of human survival. All it asks is that we look past profit, past control, and truly see what was always there. Resilience, growing fiercely, defiantly, in the sand. If this video opened something for you, subscribe to Veiled Earth and hit the bell. Every like, every share, helps preserve this vital wisdom, ensuring that these truths can no longer be buried.